This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Hi everyone, welcome back to Equipment World. You're watching The Dirt. I'm your host Brian, and today I've got an episode that is geared towards calming some fears. We all have known that the new equipment market we're really lacking in inventory, which as a result has made the used equipment market go crazy, which means you as a contractor are probably going to have to step out at some point and buy a used piece of equipment. And I know because of what we're talking about, because of the dollar amounts and because of the work we put these machines through, that can be a little bit of a daunting process. And so today's episode is geared towards maybe calming some of those nerves and giving you some tools to help you make a more educated decision on the used piece of equipment you might be going to look at in the near future. So today I have Logan Malott joining me from Ritchie Brothers, and he's here as an expert in the field to help us with giving us some pointers and tips as well as some tools we can use as we step into our next used equipment purchase. But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash. Well, Logan, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you taking some time to be on The Dirt today.
Absolutely, Brian. I appreciate you taking the time as well.
Yeah. So as I was talking about in my intro, my main goal here with this episode is to kind of educate contractors and give them some tools at their disposal as they're stepping out and going to purchase a used piece of equipment, because as I'm sure in your position, you're super familiar with, there's a super big shortage on new equipment. And so the used market is going like crazy. And so I really want to equip these contractors with some tools that they can feel comfortable stepping out and maybe even purchasing some equipment online if they've never done that before.
That's what we're here for. We've got territory managers and resources out, covering customers around the world. And we're here to help educate our customer base, whether they're buying or selling. We want to make it a very easy and transparent process, provide tools. We spend a ton of time talking to customers, really trying to do the same thing, is educate them, take what we can internally and learn and change what we need to on our side.
So just out of curiosity, what is your role within Ritchie Brothers and kind of what is your day-to-day? What do you do and what's your function within the company?
So my group primarily focuses on our customer-facing technology solutions. So in that group, we have an inventory management system that we offer to our customers at no charge, allows them to load their fleet into a system. They can track things like maintenance history there, different documents associated. What we found over the past few years talking to customers, both large and small, is the majority of them, even some of the large national contractors, were managing their fleet in a spreadsheet. So we wanted to come up with a tool that made that easy for them, mobile friendly. They can add pictures, and it's their tool. We're not in doing anything other than purely providing them a tool. And that tool comes at no cost to our customers. So that's one of the pieces. A couple of the other things that my group does, we added a tool last year called Ritchie Brothers Asset Valuator. It allows customers to, again, go in, look at 24 months of auction history, whether they're buying with us or selling with us or not. It does give the whole industry a transparent place to go see auction results, and they can use that to make their buying and selling decisions. And really the last piece that we've got out there is something we call Ritchie Brothers Market Trends. Again, it's another free report. We publish it every month, And it's a deep dive into what's happening historically in values. Are values going up? Everybody sees right now equipment values are at an all-time high. Pressure continues to be on supply. So that, of course, drives values up. And there's a report that we put out for anybody in the industry to sign up for. They can get a copy of that report and then use that again to, make business decisions off of.
Wow, that's awesome that those tools are being made available, especially at no charge to contractors. That's a powerful set of tools to have at your disposal when you kind of start not only evaluating your own fleet for selling, but also to figure out where you're at in the market on used equipment that you're looking at. So kind of getting into that, I want to equip the contractors and just kind of settle some fears when they go to purchase used. And so I guess my first question, as someone who's in this industry of buying and selling used equipment, what are some of the telltale signs that you guys look for when you go to evaluate a piece of equipment to know that that piece of equipment has been abused?
Yeah, so some of the biggest areas to look, to start with are the wear points. So whatever's engaging the ground, the buckets, tracks, forks, start to look at those for uneven wear. So that can mean that there's, a bearing that's held up on a track roller or idler. You start to look for things that are broken. It is construction equipment. Things do break, and there's proper and improper ways to repair things. So it's not uncommon to see welds on buckets. That does happen. But do they look like they're secure? Were they done in a proper manner? Does it look like it was done professionally? That's some of the biggest things to look for. Fluids leaking on a machine, telltale sign that, somebody hasn't been maintaining and taking care of that equipment. And then, try to find the maintenance history. Many of the contractors out there, I would say it's a wide variety. Many keep very detailed records. Others are just keeping basic service records. If the customer or the contractor has those records, that's invaluable to a buyer to at least understand somebody was looking at that piece, taking care of it, tracking what they were doing to it along the life of that machine.
So let's flip that question on its head, and I want to ask the opposite, which are, what are some of the telltale things outside of just shiny paint? What are some of the telltale symbols that someone has really taken care of a piece of equipment? What do you guys typically look for?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, maintenance history is a big thing. Things do break. Make sure that there's not missing parts on the machine. If something's been repaired or replaced, that it's done with either factory or one-for-one type replacement parts. A thing that happens with many of the customers is they change the fluids, they write on the oil filter or the air filter the date that it was changed. So just those type of things to look for. And the other thing is and this is, an industry thing that people talk about all the time, look at the operator station. Because, if an operator has pride in the machine they're operating, the glass will be fairly clean. Granted, you're working in dusty environments most of the time, but if the operator was taking, pride in taking care of the machine that they were running every day, the operator station should be fairly clean, things not broken, not, piles of trash in the floor, because they, again, take pride in where they're working every day. And hopefully that transitions to the outside of the machine as well.
So no spit in the floorboard from where you're too lazy to open the window when you're dipping?
Absolutely.
So
you wouldn't do that in your own car, so why would you do it in a piece of construction equipment?
That was one of my biggest peeves when I was on the job site, is getting in a machine and looking down at the floor and going, really? Come on. So I guess one of the fears that a lot of contractors have is when you're not an expert, when this isn't something you do every day, and I know I would feel the exact same way. My fear would be, what are the hidden things? What are things that you should look for where you might have to dig a little deeper than just a surface level walk around of the machine that could potentially come back and bite you?
Yeah, so I recommend getting in the machine, operating it, and you can do this all, in a forward and backward manner, raise the bucket up, lower it. Is there slack in the boom, slack in the pins? Same thing, listen for sounds, walk around the machine with the engine idling. Is there a knock in the engine? Pull the dipstick tube out while the machine is operating. See if there's, steam that comes out of there. That could indicate that there's potential excess blow by in the machine. Look for smoke when the machine's operating. And fluid samples are invaluable. As long as the machine hasn't undergone a recent service, those, oil and fluid samples will be very, indicative of what exactly is going on in the engine. Are there components that have excess wear, high metal content? Many customers service the engine, so unless the machine's been operated and brought up to operating temperature a few times, a fresh oil sample could hide, or a fresh oil change could hide those in an oil sample. So it's always good to, when you're looking at a machine, if you are going to pull fluid samples, the machine needs to have been ran a few hours to show any excess signs that are going to come up in that oil sample.
So even outside of knowing whether regular maintenance is being done, make sure to check the dates on the filters so that you can kind of gauge how recently that's been done and potentially if someone's hiding something.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, and you kind of touched on this with your introduction, how can someone that's looking at a used piece of equipment get a decent feel for what that piece of equipment is worth so that they're not overpaying, they're not getting ripped off? And likewise, if they're going to sell one of their pieces of equipment, how do I know where to price my machine where I'm not really taking a bath on it, but at the same time, it's a fair price?
Yeah, so at Ritchie Brothers, we came out with a tool around a year ago called Ritchie Brothers Asset Valuator. Any of our customers or any contractor in the world can go sign up for that. It is a free tool. And what it gives you is access to 2 years of auction history across all three of our selling channels. So you can go out, you can view photos of the machine, you can see the price it sold for, see the date that it sold for, and any specs or information we had on the machine at time of sale. So especially right now when the market is extremely strong for pricing, we just published our market trends report a few days ago. We show many of the categories continue to climb month on month, just due to the demand that's out there. So we encourage anybody who's buying, whether you're buying from a dealer, whether you're buying from one of our auction channels or one of our online marketplaces, go out, absolutely do your research, understand there's a lot of things that go into pricing of used equipment, condition, of course, being the main thing. We are starting to see many higher hour machines out there, especially as contractors and rental companies run those machines longer due to, job site demand that they have to get them out there. And it's also hard to get new equipment in many markets right now to replace that stuff. They do hold on to it longer than they typically have, which increased hours. But right now, pricing is extremely strong. And that's why we put some of the tools out there, because you can go out and you can look at what different people are asking in the classified ads and the different things, but going and seeing actual transaction history on what somebody was willing to pay for a machine, on sale day in an open and transparent marketplace, at least gives them a baseline. They can figure out if there's different attachments on the machine, what those are worth to them, what the history of that machine may be worth in addition to, what the values that are out there and available are.
What a helpful tool to have to kind of even just give you some footing. So now I kind of want to cross over, because traditionally most people think of when I'm going to go buy or sell a piece of equipment, it's going to be a relatively local transaction, if not through my dealership. But from what I understand, more and more equipment sales are starting to move online. I don't want to necessarily put you totally on the spot, but do you have a feel for, statistics wise, how many transactions are starting to take place online for you guys versus in the actual auction yards?
Yeah, so we had to transition last year with COVID, and customers were still allowed to come on our sites. Our sites are still open. You can absolutely come and inspect, but we stopped holding live sales where we had audiences sitting in our theaters watching equipment run across the ramp. We had been doing online or simulcast auctions for many years. In fact, over half of our transactions from our live auctions were purchased by an online buyer. They can log in right on their phone, right on their laptop, and bid from anywhere in the world. So it was a fairly easy transition for us because we already had the technology and the people in place to do this. So we transitioned to 100% online in March of 2020 for our live auctions. Of course, our Iron Planet weekly featured auctions have always been, online. Those happen every Thursday. And then Marketplace E is our reserve channel, and it sits on the Iron Planet platform. So same thing, it's all virtual, all online. One of the things that we had to do is make sure that we were providing adequate information for our buyers or potential buyers of that equipment with consistent inspection. So we have an inspection process and checklist for every different type of equipment or category that we go through, whether you're looking at a 336 cat excavator sitting in Paris in our yard, or you're looking at a Komatsu PC 360 sitting in our North Carolina yard. Those inspections, even though they're a different manufacturer, they're a similar size machine, you'll see very consistent photos. If you're looking at the machines side by side, you can actually, on our site, do a side-by-side comparison of the two machines. You'll have photos of the same components. They'll be in the same order. So it allows a buyer, even though they're not there, or they may not have made a trip out to our site to view those, they can get a very good idea of what's available. A few other services we added in. One is kind of a concierge walk around of a machine. So many of our sites, you can reach out, you can call the location, set up a time, and actually get on FaceTime with one of our staff in the yard, and they'll do a walk around with you. So
what a fantastic idea. That's great.
So you can hear the machine operate. You can ask questions live. So we've added some staff at each of our facilities around the world to be able to do that. That way, if a buyer, for whatever reason, can't get out there and view it, they can get somebody on the phone, do a little bit of a walk around. And we also started doing more and more videos. So for many years, our Iron Planet platform, we put videos together. You can hear the engine running, see the machine starting from the operator station, see any warning or indicator lights on the dash. We're adding a video component to our Ritchie Brothers Auctioneers, or our live sales side of the business, just to enhance that, because many of our customers continually, like to bid remote, and we're going to continue to make sure that we, add or bolster the offering there, so it makes them have the confidence, knowing what they're getting when they're buying remotely or buying online.
So let me ask you this, let's take Ritchie Brothers official formal out of the equation. But you, as an expert in the industry, if you were going to go purchase a piece of equipment online, not through Ritchie Brothers, but through just any online website, what are some of the things that you would look at and request to kind of safeguard yourself in an online transaction environment?
One of the critical things just to look at is any seller, with transparency, should allow you to send in a local mechanic or a third party to go perform an inspection. Schedule that, whether you're hiring the local OEM dealer or if it's remote and you're just hiring another third party. It gives you another set of eyes and ears out there. You're going to have to pay for that inspection, of course, on your own, but that's a very easy cost to absorb when you've hired somebody, they've went out and they've got your best interest in mind. The other thing is just go through the photos and the inspection that was performed on the machine by whomever's selling it. And in most cases, they should be willing, if there's photos that you want or need, they should be willing to provide those to you. It gives you that transparency that there's not a picture inside the cab. Well, they very well may have forgotten to take a photo or didn't get one. But you should ask for those type of things. That way, when you're making that buying decision remotely, that's exactly what you can get. Plus, with FaceTime and all of the other video services that are available today, call the salesman that's on the site, call whomever, operations personnel might be there with that machine if you're buying it from a dealer. And do just what we've done. Ask them, hey, can I FaceTime you for 5 minutes? And you do a quick walk around with the machine live. And, everybody out there in the industry does, everybody's having to come up with new and innovative ways to reach their customers. And that's when everybody's got their phone in their hand, and it's very easy to, get somebody to spend a couple minutes with you walking around a machine.
I know the answer to this, but I want to ask it so it comes straight from the expert's mouth. Is there any reason someone selling a piece of equipment should be withholding a serial number on a machine?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you need the full serial number on the machine. We lean search everything that we sell. to make sure there's no liens on those machines. So we go do a check. Buyers can do that as well. You can do that on your own. There's services out there, that third-party services you can hire. And I would recommend that if you don't know and have a lot of confidence in whom you're buying it from, go make sure there's no liens on that machine. It's very easy to do with some of the different services out there, because you definitely don't want to buy a machine that you don't have the full serial number on. You're going to need that full serial number as soon as you buy it or in the buying process. If you're going to finance it, your bank is going to request that. You're also going to need the full serial number, even if you're not financing it, for your insurance company. If you're buying it remotely, you want to get that machine added onto your insurance. That way you're protected, should an accident happen, while it's in transit to your facility or once it gets there. You've got to have the full serial number. And if somebody's selling a machine and not willing to provide the full serial number, that would be a hard stop for me, making a purchase decision.
So serial numbers actually leads me into my next and final question for you. For the audience, could you give us kind of a definition of what a gray market machine is here in the United States, and any tips on spotting gray market machines?
Gray market machines have been out there for many years. Really, the gray market machines, it was manufactured probably using, the same or exact manufacturing practices, no matter what the brand is, wherever it was at. So, but it really comes down to, a gray market machine that lands in North America was manufactured elsewhere, which that's okay, but it was manufactured based on staying in and meeting the emissions and safety standards of another part of the world. So that's really that kind of crossover line. Lots of manufacturers manufacture units and produce units outside of North America, but they produce them with safety emission standards that, allow them to come into the country. And a gray market machine is really, it was produced somewhere else and doesn't comply fully with the EPA and safety standards for North America.
And I do want to throw in there, when I was working at the Case dealership, a lot of times when we would run into gray market machines, we couldn't even access that machine's serial number in our system. Case North America was totally separate from Case Europe, and so we couldn't look up parts for compatibility. And so if you had compatibility issues, you were just kind of out of luck when it came to any sort of dealership support here in the U.S.
Absolutely. I would recommend, some telltale signs are, look on the engine. There should be EPA stickers on the engine for a North American machine, and do exactly what you just said. Take that serial number, call your local dealer, whatever brand it may be. They can sometimes provide any history on the machine, but that is a full stop if they find out that they can't access that serial number. Your challenge will be getting parts and service on that machine here in North America, especially if your local dealer can't access parts.
Well, perfect. Well, that really wraps up all of my questions. Is there anything else you would like to add, even news-wise, coming up with Ritchie Brothers?
Lots of exciting things happening. Again, we launch new tools for customers every day, so feel free to reach out to your local territory manager if you've got any questions about Ritchie Brothers, any of our channels, any of our technology offerings. We recently launched a brand called Ritchie List, so we've got a classified ad service now offering for North America, which is brand new. Just launched it a couple weeks ago, so that's out there and available for any of our customers who want to take a look at it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Logan, for the time and coming on the show. We really appreciate all the information. I know this is going to help calm some people's nerves as they go into their next used equipment purchase, so I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, Brian. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you again to Logan and the guys at Ritchie Brothers for all of those tools, for all of the information. I know even though I sold equipment for a while, I had no idea some of these tools existed, and I can see the value right off the bat. In fact, that digital concierge service where they walk you around, what a powerful tool for evaluating a piece of equipment you might be interested in without having to travel hundreds of miles to go see that piece of equipment. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, absolutely drop them down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Dirt.